In the heart of Edinburgh, where cobblestone streets and historic buildings echo tales of the past, lies the Grassmarket, a site infamous for its gruesome public executions. Among the countless stories of those who met their end here, one name has transcended the centuries: Margaret Dickson, the woman who came back from the dead. Margaret's story begins in the early 1700s. She was an ordinary woman, born into a humble family in Musselburgh, a small fishing village near Edinburgh. Like many women of her time, her life revolved around survival fishing, trading, and doing whatever was necessary to support herself. She married a local fisherman, but the marriage was troubled. Her husband, prone to neglect, often left her to fend for herself. After years of hardship, Margaret decided to seek a better life. She moved to Edinburgh, taking on work as a housemaid. But life in the city was no easier. Desperate for stability, Margaret became involved with another man, a relationship that would change her life forever. Months later, Margaret discovered she was pregnant. In those days, an unwed mother faced severe societal judgment and harsh consequences. Terrified of the shame and the potential loss of her job, she kept the pregnancy a secret. When the time came to give birth, she was alone, with no one to help her. The child, as the story goes, was stillborn. Overcome with fear and grief, Margaret made the fateful decision to dispose of the baby's body near the river. But her secret didn't stay hidden for long. The tiny body was discovered, and Margaret was quickly arrested. In 1724, Margaret was brought before the court in Edinburgh. Despite her protests that the baby had died naturally, the court charged her with concealment of pregnancy, a crime punishable by death under Scots law. The sentence was carried out swiftly. Margaret was to be hanged in the Grassmarket. Execution day arrived, drawing a large crowd to the Grassmarket Square. Public hangings were a grim spectacle, a macabre form of entertainment. Margaret was brought to the gallows, her face pale but resolute. She stood before the jeering crowd, the noose tightened around her neck. The executioner pulled the lever, and Margaret fell. The rope snapped tight, and her body hung limp. After a few minutes, she was pronounced dead. Her body was placed in a wooden coffin, ready to be transported back to Musselburgh for burial. But Margaret's story didn't end there. On the journey home, something extraordinary happened. The cart carrying her coffin hit a bump in the road, jolting it violently. Suddenly, a faint knocking sound was heard from inside the coffin. The driver, shocked and terrified, stopped the cart. When the lid of the coffin was opened, Margaret Dickson, who had been declared dead just hours earlier, sat up, gasping for air. She was alive. Word of Margaret's miraculous survival spread like wildfire. Under Scots law at the time, she could not be executed again. The sentence had been carried out, and she had technically served her punishment. Margaret was a free woman. Her survival was seen as an act of divine intervention. Some believed it was a sign that she was innocent of any wrongdoing. Others whispered that she had made a pact with dark forces, escaping death through unnatural means. Whatever the explanation, Margaret became a living legend, her story told and retold in hushed tones across Edinburgh and beyond. Margaret eventually returned to Musselburgh, where she reconciled with her estranged husband. The couple reportedly lived quietly, raising a family and trying to leave the past behind. but her brush with death left a mark on Scots law. From that day forward, the wording of death sentences was changed to include the phrase "until dead" to prevent another Margaret Dickson from escaping the hangman's noose. Even now, centuries later, the tale of Half-Hangit Maggie, as she came to be known, endures. Visitors to Edinburgh's Grassmarket often hear her story as part of ghost tours and local lore. Some say her spirit lingers, a reminder of the strange and miraculous events that unfolded here. Others believe her story is a testament to resilience and the will to survive, even in the face of impossible odds. The story of Margaret Dickson is not just a tale of death and resurrection, it is a story of humanity, fear, and redemption. It is a chilling reminder of the fragility of life and the mysteries that lie just beyond the veil. Margaret Dickson's name is etched into Edinburgh's history, a haunting legend that will never be forgotten.